Jupiter Lander. When landing on the moon is boring, try landing on Jupiter. Although considering that Jupiter is a gas giant, I'm not sure there would be many places to land, and Jupiter's atmosphere would kill you instantly. That is, if the monoliths don't get you first. This is on the Commodore 64. From the year 1982 AD. And is a flat-out remake of Atari's Lunar Lander, which was an arcade game released in 1979, and a very good remake. This game has sound, but the Commodore 64 that I'm playing on does not have sound at the moment. I'm not sure why. We found a Commodore 64 in my wife's parents' attic, and it's almost 30 years old, and packed away in an old shoebox covered in dust, we found the game cartridge for Jupiter Lander. Since I didn't record sound, I'll make my own sounds. Yay! Landing safely on Jupiter. Let's open the door and I'll die. I'll play some music here as well. That seems to fit the game nicely. Notice where I landed. I'm scoring some serious bonus points. I'm playing this one with the keyboard, and if you've ever played Lunar Lander, it's pretty much the exact same game. You start with a limited amount of fuel, which depletes quickly when you're using your thrusters to land your spacecraft. Hang on. That gets tiring after a while. Here's a trick question. Since you know you cannot hear sound in space because there's no atmosphere, can you hear sound on Jupiter? The answer is no, because you'd be dead before you heard anything. Let's talk about controls. Using the keyboard or joystick, you can thrust left and right and then upwards. You see the green bar on the right with a little bit of yellow in the middle. You have to land with your ship in that yellow area. That's your speed gauge. You get more points for landing in more difficult locations and less points for landing on that easy part. Pretty much the exact same thing as Lunar Lander. I've never seen an actual Lunar Lander arcade machine. They're very old and you're probably not going to come across one these days. I believe it had vector graphics. And if you think this game looks cool, it is. This is a very fun game. A little slow by today's standards. It's an easy game to get sucked into, and I think it's a lot of fun. If you don't have a Commodore 64 or VIC-20 computer, then I'll recommend Lunar Lander, which you can get on the Atari Anthology, which is available for Xbox and PlayStation 2. I reviewed the Xbox version. You can see that at ClassicGameRoom.com or ClassicGameRoom.net. Both places will take you to the same place, a happy place. While I'm still working on getting the Commodore 64 fully up to speed with the disk drive, I have a handful of game cartridges. Jupiter Lander is my favorite. And we'll see if I can get some other Commodore 64 games reviewed here on Classic Game Room. These don't seem to have quite the collector's market as the Atari games or ColecoVision. But there are a lot of Commodore 64 games, many of which are very nice versions of arcade titles that you're familiar with, like Donkey Kong and Robotron 2084. Anyway, it goes without saying that when you run out of fuel, you lose, because then you can't land and you can't escape Jupiter's gravity, and you die. Basically, you're screwed no matter what you do in Jupiter Lander. Ah.